Well, yeah, I lived just down the road from here when I was in Ealing, and what was surprising was that even being down in Brazil, it was being broadcast on the TV what was going on back in London, and then I could drill down using social media to find more specifically what was happening where I used to live. So I could see on YouTube videos being uploaded, and on Twitter itself comments from different people about what was going on. I mean, on the negative side, a lot of people have criticised certainly social media in its entirety for its ability to broadcast and organise people together. So, potentially organising people to focus on looting one particular shop or whatever. But I think that my experience on that evening was much more around seeing local councillors and people that were part of the local community actually helping other people, offering places to stay, telling people where they could go, where were safe places to go, and this kind of thing. So, I was actually sitting there in Brazil following all this in real time, and I guess maybe because a lot of the people I follow on Twitter are people like the councillors and a lot of local pub owners and shop owners, I could actually see this whole story playing out in real time, but with a lot of positive stories as well. I mean, I think that it's just talk. I think essentially it's a bit of a crazy proposal. The idea that you would shut this down, it's like turning off the entire telephone network. So I think that politicians have to talk tough during tough times, but I don't think that any of those proposals would ever become a reality. Certainly not in a democracy like the UK. Well, I mean, this whole event started 2.5 years ago because I noticed on my Twitter stream people not only talking about work but talking about things going on in their local community. So I just asked the question, is there anybody else in Ealing? Let's get together Friday night, 7 o'clock, and about a dozen people just showed up. So not knowing each other at all. And the interesting thing was there was no geeks. It was the local postman, the school teacher, etc., etc. And they were all finding a way to communicate together about their local community. So I think that it's just a demonstration that there's people out there in all walks of life using these kind of tools to communicate. And I think you can see that here tonight. There's about 200 people here just for the Tweetup, and that's a reflection of them actually wanting to meet in real life as well.
For a number of reasons, actually. So HCL is a large global IT services company. We have about 85,000 people globally, $6 billion in revenue. We have about 4,500 people here based in Europe. Interestingly, we have 80 to 85% of our employees actually local Europeans, and a large chunk of those are based in the UK, and a large part of those are actually based in West London, and specifically West Ealing. So a lot of our employees are actually directly impacted with the trouble that happened several weeks ago. Well, obviously, I think social media such as Twitter got some bad press as tools, being used as tools to help orchestrate trouble. I think what we're demonstrating here is that social media, things like Twitter, can be used for more positive things. So, for example, HCL is now contributing £2 for every tweet that's going here. This is going into the charity that's supporting the local community. The other thing is really HCL has, behind the boring stats and numbers about the size of the organisation, revenue and the rest of it, we have a very unique management philosophy which is called employees first, customer second, which sounds like heresy, it sounds like a touchy-feely HR policy. It's not, it's really about employee empowerment. And what we're trying to do here in this particular Tweetup is demonstrate and support and acknowledge the local empowerment that's taking place here in Ealing about bringing Ealing back up to where it was before the trouble. Yeah, it's a huge tool which I think is still being underused at the moment. We find that a lot of organisations today are still quite closed or have a very inward-looking view about how to leverage and use this. But if you think about the Generation Y coming to the workplace today, they're used to operate in a very different environment, very collaborative, very open environment. And we feel that Web 2.0 technologies are extremely powerful, creating collaboration with the company, and even innovation, ground-up innovation, things that are done in a more organic way rather than a structured way.
Well, funny enough, I was actually away on holiday during the riots, and what I knew about it, the first I knew about it, was via social media. I got a text alerting me to the fact that there was a message on my Facebook, not a tweet, a Facebook message, which said, "It's mayhem in Ealing." I thought, what on earth is that about? So I rang home and found out all about it. Got home to find out, exactly what had happened. But it strikes me that there were enormous amounts of social media activity, for good as well as bad, during the riots, and it was another interesting example of how people use the medium, and the medium isn't good or bad, it's neutral, it's however you use it, and it's been used for a lot of good in terms of people organising clean-ups, organising fundraising around this event, for example. Well, I think what's interesting about it is sort of the near and the far. It brings you together with people that I only know Mark through social media. I originally got in touch with him because he did something very interesting about blogging for companies, and I got in touch with him, and I really know him far more through social media than in real life. Probably only the second or third time I met him in real life. But I think it can really contribute to creating those little links in a community, which people who don't know each other in real life but then actually come to events like this. I did a big radio series about History Science Network, and what was interesting was the way the offline and the online meshed, and here's a perfect example.
For my other roles, there are 28 boroughs that were affected. There are only 4 or 5 that escaped very lightly. But Ealing had some spectacular fires and some spectacular windows kicked in. Woolwich, Croydon, Tottenham, Greenwich, a whole range of places were hit, all 28 boroughs. I regret the immediate knee-jerk reaction of some people saying how bad social media was. It's only through organising and social media that they can actually get things together, and they got people in from all over different parts of London, and indeed Slough people who've been arrested, living who've been arrested in Ealing. And it is a modern phenomenon. It exists. To talk about shutting it down, making it different, is just an absolute nonsense. I think what the authorities, the police, local councils, politicians got to do is learn how to use it. Where were the tweets saying, "No, don't come to Ealing, the place is absolutely full of police officers"? Where was the counter works? Where was the involvement and the engagement through that social media? Radio, to a broad extent, is boring to most people. We skip through it and whatever. You've got the television with hundreds of channels, and every time an advert or something comes on, you flick through it. There is nothing which is a true constant to get information out, which is instant. Yet everybody's got a telephone, and the tweet medias, the Facebooks and all the rest of it are clearly there, and they're going to be used. To moan about it is as bad as a sailor moaning about the sea. Don't let's pretend that 100% of society are using social media. It's probably a young people's game, whatever they are, but it is an instant, quick means of getting messages across to people. You can see it, tens of thousands of people follow what's his name, Fry, on whatever he's doing, cleaning his teeth or eating an apple, which I regard as utterly boring. The Mayor, Boris, has got about 70,000 followers on his thing. It is there. It's replacing radio, it's replacing newspapers, it is instant. I wouldn't be here tonight had it not been for that social media. Let's recognise the good that it do, and be prepared that all good things get misused at times. That's life. We've got to learn to adapt, we've got to learn to grow up, and not just kick against the bricks. It's an absolute pleasure, and can I truly congratulate everybody for getting them together. It's It's a nice pint, it's a great crowd, and we're healing Ealing.